Welcome to the Fall 2016 Co-op Job Search Meeting. My name is Todd Foley, and I am your Co-op Faculty Advisor here at the University of Cincinnati. Co-op Faculty Advisors, we have a lot of different roles. One of them is to advise you on your experiences going throughout the co-op program and help you land a co-op job. So that's part of what I do. So this component right now, preparing you for the search, helping you with your resume, helping you with interviewing, those types of things in order to get you that co-op experience. I'm also a teacher, and so I teach the Introduction to Co-op course many of you are in. I also teach something called the Mid-Curricular Co-op Community course, which Logan is in, and that you will take after your second co-op semester, and you'll take that with me as well. And it's a much smaller group of students, and we have a bit more conversations around professional development and project management, leadership, and those types of things. My final role is as a developer for jobs. I go out on the road and meet with employers and try to recruit them to hire more computer engineering co-op students, or really just co-op students in general at the University of Cincinnati. Most of the employers that I work with are, of course, right here in the Cincinnati region, but I do take some time to go outside of the region and recruit from areas that you all are interested in working in. Primarily in the California region. I'm actually doing that this summer. I'm going to be taking a tour in Silicon Valley and trying to find more opportunities for you all to work in some California-based companies. That'll probably be a long way off for many of you. Most of you will hopefully land in co-op right here in the Cincinnati region for your first time. It's a good opportunity to get your feet wet into the profession and kind of learn as much as you can from some of our local co-op employers. And so that's kind of what I do. Those are my roles. Before we get too far into this experience with each other, you need to know about certifications and sectioning. Certification is your approval to be certified for the co-op program. That's different from the application that you fill out in the online program PAL. Certification is done by your department. It tells me that you have passed your classes successfully in the fall semester, and then you are on track with your co-op, with your Comp E curriculum. You should have actually received an email today indicating whether or not you are in fact certified, and if you had received that email today, it asks you to indicate whether or not the fall semester or the spring semester of next year would be a hardship for you to co-op in. And so if you absolutely cannot co-op in the fall because of a program that you're involved in or some other experience that you're using or working with, you will then indicate that to Teresa Hamid via email, and then what she does is she sections our students off into two groups, a group that will co-op in the fall and a group that will co-op in the spring. It's important that we section students as much as we can in half because the group that is out on co-op is not on campus, and so therefore not taking seats in classes, and the group that is not on co-op are in the classrooms, and so that way we can keep classes small. We tend to overload in the fall. We tend to put more students in the co-op search in the fall because if you don't land a co-op in the fall, for some reason, you just weren't picked up by a company, you can always search again for the spring, and so you really get two chances at finding a co-op. If you only search for the spring, you only get that one shot. And so sectioning is very important in creating balance for the program. If you don't know, this is going to be mostly about fall, so if you don't know, the dates for the fall co-op term are August 22nd to December 23rd. And that is the preferred date for you to start and preferred date for you to end. But the employer that you work with really determines the date that you will start and end their co-op term. But these are the dates that we suggest. We're going to go through a few things today about the co-op experience, but mostly I'm going to go through some resources with you, things that you'll need to know in order to be successful. For some of you who went to the spring meeting, this is going to be like, I've heard all of this before, so I'm going to gloss over a few things rather quickly, but most of this is going to be term-specific information. This is why I want you to have a pen and a piece of paper to take notes. So some resources that you're going to have. Right now you have key dates. That's a handout I've given to you. I'm also going to email that to you. The other things I'm going to email you when I am ready for you to start searching for jobs in our system is the Co-op Search Strategy Guide. I have about 7 or 8 tips on how to do a co-op search really, really well. There's a document, 2 Google documents that I have that I'll provide you the links for that you should become very familiar with. One is the new PAL Jobs Google document, which lists all the new jobs that get added to PAL after your first round of rankings within the system. The second Google Doc is a top-tier company online job boards. So a lot of companies like Amazon or Apple or Google or something like that, they're not going to be necessarily in PAL or even looking in PAL for your resume if you want to work for one of them. And so what I've done is I've aggregated that list, created it, and then put in some notes so it's easy for you to navigate some of those things. If you're interested in working for a Silicon Valley company or something that, some famous company, a big company or something like that in the world, now is the time to look for those. Those may or may not be a spring co-op, maybe a spring or a summer, so that's something to consider right now. I will send you those as links as well in emails. The other things that you can keep in mind is if you want to meet with me, always just call the phone number that's listed on the PowerPoint here. It's also in your sheet on the second page. If you want to meet with me, the quickest way to do it is just call, and then they'll set up a time for us to meet together. If you email me and say, hey, I'd love to meet with you, here are my available times, I'll say, hey, thanks, that's great. Could you please call this number and set up a time to meet with me? They control my calendar. It's much easier to funnel everyone into one area to get on my calendar, so it's a little bit easier on me and on you. And then I will also send you a list of top employers. There are over 350 positions in our system that you may or may not want to look at. We have about 100 and so employers. And so that's a lot of folks in there looking and offering for jobs. And so I'm going to give you the top list of who's hired the most computer engineers from University of Cincinnati over the last few years. And so that kind of filters out a lot of the noise for you. So you can say, I'm definitely going to apply for these top 20 because these guys always hire. I have some expectations. I want you to make sure that you have viewed every single PAL tutorial on YouTube. Now, you should have done that in your intro class. Hopefully you have done that, and hopefully you've committed those things to memory. But sometimes you might have forgotten something if you've not actually accessed the system on a regular basis. So if you have questions about PAL, how do I log in? How do I rank positions? How do I change my email address? All these types of things. Do not email me those questions. I will not respond to those. I will simply respond and say, here's the link to all the videos online that teach you how to do everything in PAL. And so you'll just go there. So that's your first place to go. If you have a question about PAL that isn't really generally listed on those in those videos, like I can't log in for some reason, something's not letting me do something, it's telling me that I'm in a different major and I'm supposed to be in computer engineering, all those types of questions, please do send those to me and I will help you out with those things. But for the most part, you're responsible for knowing how to use PAL. Make sure when you upload your resume into the system that you upload it as a PDF document, not as a Word document. You're going to make your resume in Word or whatever word processing software you use, but then you're going to convert it to a PDF before you put it in PAL. Sometimes PAL, when it converts your Word document to a PDF online, it gets wonky somewhere in the middle, and if you have like some weird fonts that you're using, it doesn't convert, and all of a sudden it looks really weird, and if you don't check, employers are going to be looking at a resume that's either incomplete or something's wrong with it. The most common mistake I see is that you upload a Word document and it adds a second page, and you have a second blank page, so every time they look at your resume they see this blank page, and employers do get a little annoyed at that. And so I would just keep in mind those things when you're creating that PDF to upload. View jobs. I expect that you go into PAL and look at jobs. That's a pretty no-brainer expectation, because otherwise how else are you going to find a job? You can do things on your own, and I encourage you to do that, but I would expect that you go into PAL and rank positions. Speaking of ranking, you need to rank at least 60 positions in PAL by the first round when resumes go out. The key dates are on that document. I'm going to talk about dates a little bit later, but by the first round you need to have ranked 60 positions as very interested. Earlier I just told you that there are 350 of them in there, so that doesn't sound like a bad thing. But I've been told by upper class students that ranking positions in PAL, for every 10 that you do, it takes about an hour. For some of you sitting in the room have done this already, and so you know that it can take a long time. So you have 60 that you need to do before the first round goes out. In addition to that, I want you to apply to at least 5 companies that are external from PAL, things that you find on your own. Some notes on that. There are 2 places I prefer to look at for external applications. My primary is Indeed.com. Indeed is nice because it filters out, it doesn't have advertising for the most part, and it filters out all the noise for you that is in the rest of the world. It takes all the other sites that like CareerBuilder and Monster and Glassdoor and takes their listings as well as listings directly from top employers' own HR websites and funnels them into Indeed. It's one of the most comprehensive places to find jobs that I've been able to discover. And so I would definitely recommend that. I will actually send you a link on how to search for a computer engineering internship through Indeed without having to figure it out yourself. You can certainly do that. It takes only a few moments, but I will also just send you a link that you can just click on and it'll automatically bring up every computer engineering co-op or internship in the country at any given moment. The other place that I prefer is LinkedIn. LinkedIn actually has a special page called students.linkedin.com. And it's not just going to LinkedIn and clicking on jobs, because there's hundreds of thousands of jobs on there. But what it is, it's a student portal for students and recent graduates. And if you go through this system and you scroll down, it says search for jobs and you select engineering, you'll get to a page where it lists over 100,000 jobs. If you eliminate entry level and only look at internships, it should be somewhere around 3,000. That's nationwide. And it's a really good way to do that. It also filters them, if you've created a LinkedIn profile, based on your profile. So like location, things that you've done already, and it'll put them at the top for you. It'll also tell you how you're connected to people who work at those places. So if you're connected with me on LinkedIn, it'll tell you if I'm connected to those people, and generally I am. And so that way it can be a good way to create networking opportunities for you with the co-op search. So that's 60 jobs in PAL and 5 external applications before the deadline, which is September 11th for round 1. Round 2, which is a little bit later in the semester, I think it's October 6th or something like that, it's 80 jobs. So I want you to go from 60 to 80, and I want you to go from 5 applications to 10. Make sense? Now, you might think that external applications include places that are in PAL, that require you to go outside of PAL to apply for them. BMW is a very good example of that. BMW uses PAL. We list their positions in PAL, which is fantastic, but they'll never go in and look at resumes. They don't like to use our system. So the position description for BMW and many other positions just clearly says, please apply for this position online. Here's the link. When you go into the system and you see a position like BMW that you're interested in, not only click on that link and apply for that job externally, but rank it as very interested if that's a job you're interested in. The reason why I have you do that is a couple things. One, it tells me that you're interested in working for BMW. So when they call, and they do, and say, hey, we need some applicants because we're trying to fill a position that we have, I can then send them easily the people who have applied for BMW's job, as opposed to looking at 100 or so resumes and sending them a big packet, which I won't do. So if only 2 or 3 people have actually gone in and selected BMW as an option, then only those 2 or 3 people are the people I'm going to send. The other reason why I like having you do it is because I will send you a reminder. If you have not gone online and done it yourself, I will remind you to do that. Job ranking is a 2-step process. So when you click very interested, and you have done a bunch of those, in order to finalize that, you have to scroll all the way to the bottom and hit finalize selection. If you don't hit that last button, all of your work will be gone. It's like writing a term paper and forgetting to hit save and then the computer crashing. It's the worst feeling ever. So do things as they come. If people like go alphabetically, go A through F and then hit finalize, then G through whatever, then hit finalize, etc., etc. However you feel the most appropriate way to do it, but make sure you hit that finalize button often so that you can have those things loaded for you and saved. The other things I want you to keep in mind is, yes, rank things as somewhat and not interested. If you take the time to read somebody's job description, don't just ignore it afterwards. If it doesn't seem interesting to you, click not interested. If it's something that you might be interested in, go ahead and click somewhat. Because what's going to happen is, months later, if you don't have a co-op yet, I'm going to continue to ask you to go and rank positions in PAL. That's the #1 way for us to get students jobs. And so if you're going to just keep going back in and rereading job descriptions over and over again, it's going to be a big waste of your time. So what I'd rather have you do is select things as somewhat interested that you can convert to very interested later on. Make sense? Okay. There you go. Some other expectations. Attend the career fair. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. The career fair is super important. I have a statistic that shows that 90% of the students who get a job in the first 6 weeks of the semester can attribute that to the career fair alone. And so that's without PAL, without everything else. So that's an intense sort of time to be. I mean, they can attest to what it's like to be at the career fair. Lots and lots of people talking lots and lots of different ways. But I really recommend that you go, and I expect that you will be there. Respond promptly to all employer emails. I can't stress this enough. If an employer sends you an email, respond within 24 hours. All right. That includes if you've already received interviews and already received offers and you're not interested in a company anymore, still respond so that they know, so that they can move on to the next person. You don't want to have a job offer and then screw over your friend because you're keeping the employer thinking that you might still be interested. All right. Ensure that you have a custom voice message. Employers will tell me that if they call your cell phone and it's the automatic robotic voice that says this phone number is not available, they won't leave messages. So make sure that you change that to a custom message that just has your name so that they know it's you, that they can leave it. There are actually laws that govern that sort of thing with HR and policies, and so if there's no name, they can't leave a message. Oftentimes they won't. Respond promptly to all my emails, okay? You will look like this guy when you receive emails from me. These guys can also attest to that. My emails are really, really long and really, really boring and full of a ton of information. But I do that on purpose. I'd rather send you one really long email once a week than 9 or 10 emails a week that are smaller. All right, so I just pick everything that I need to send you and I just send it all at once. So make sure you read the entire thing. I often will send you job updates. These are jobs that are available. Please apply for these. I'll send you communication on different information nights that you might be interested in attending. Or I might send you status updates and say, here are 5 questions. Can you hit reply real quick and tell me how many interviews you've had, who you've interviewed with, if you've interviewed with anyone, how many offers have you had, if you've had any, and have you accepted a job and you just hasn't told anyone yet. That is something I frequently will do. I'll also send you surveys that are really quick. Sometimes I'll send a survey that asks you, what kind of programming languages do you know? And you'll say to yourself, well, this is on my resume. Why is he asking this? Because I'm not going to look through 100 some odd resumes to figure out who's got .NET experience, because I have an employer who wants someone who has .NET experience. It's easy for me to just pull up a list and then send them those names. And then they go in and look at resumes. It's very, very quick and it's very, very easy to do it that way. So please respond to all my emails and all my requests for information. This is just one little bit, last information about expectations. You may be the most awesome candidate in the entire world, and you interview with one company, it's your favorite company in the whole world, and they hire you like that moment, right? And you're thinking to yourself, I'm the best. I didn't need all this junk and all these things like that. But keep in mind that there are a lot of people before me even that have set up this situation for you to be successful in that moment. And so all I do is ask that you respect that process. And so when people put on things like the career fair, or we send emails, or we put on info nights, that you do take the time to consider those, attend those, and be part of the process. Because it's all built to help you land a co-op and be successful in your profession. Oh, I guess I have one more thing. The last thing I will say, and Alan actually talked really well last night with the other group about this, prepare for interviews. I cannot stress that enough. How often that a student, I will ask them at the end of the term, how many people did you interview with? And they'll say, I had 3 interviews. And I'll say, with who? And they won't even remember the names of the companies they interviewed with. Know the company that you applied to.
Okay, at this point I'd like to talk to you about some active co-op search strategies and ways that you can help yourself land the co-op that you want to get. First, let's talk about some key dates for this coming semester. By Thursday, February 4th, you'll need to uploaded your newly designed resume to PAL and begin ranking jobs. Ranking jobs can take you a long time, so I would keep that in mind. Unfortunately, I'm only giving you from Thursday, February 4th to Monday, February 8th to rank jobs, but you'll be active in PAL much before the 4th, and so you can begin ranking jobs anytime you upload a resume. So if you want to upload a resume earlier than that, you certainly can, and that way it gives you more time to rank jobs. But by Monday, February 8th at 8 a.m., you have needed to rank at least 60 positions in PAL, and you need to rank them as very interested. Any other rankings, somewhat interested or not interested, don't count toward your application. So you need to have 60 PAL rankings that are very interested, so your resume will go out to 60 different positions. I also like you to complete at least 5 external applications that is external to PAL from Indeed.com or LinkedIn or something like that. That's 8 a.m. That's when resumes will go out. That is the Monday before the career fair, which is on February 11th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I would like you to attend that as well. The reason why we have you do rankings before the career fair is many of the companies that are at the career fair will only look at your resume if you have already applied for their job through PAL. Friday, February 12th is the day after the career fair, and oftentimes companies will ask you to come back on Friday to interview with them directly right here on campus. After that, I do a series of uploads of resumes to new employers. And so Monday, March 7th, May 30th, June 20th, and July 11th, all at 8 a.m. You should either upload an updated resume to PAL, or if your resume is still the same, that's fine. But go in and you need to at least select 25 additional PAL positions and complete 5 additional external applications. Those 25 additional PAL positions that you've ranked as very interested, every Monday, the 7th of March, 30th of May, 20th of June, 11th of July, every time you do that, I will send your resume out again to all those employers that you've ranked. By Monday, August 1st at 8 a.m., I will hope that you have uploaded your most recent and updated resume into PAL, and then I'll send all your final resumes out to every employer that I have in my system for any students who still haven't landed a job by Monday, August 1st. And so if you haven't landed a co-op by then, and that's okay, a lot of students haven't, it's a big number, I just send everybody's resume right out to every employer, so at that point you won't have to use PAL anymore. Keep in mind the fall co-op semester is August 22nd to December 23rd. Those are the preferred dates that we have you work. So strategies to help you land a co-op. Here are some tips that I have found that have been super helpful for students over the last few semesters that I've been working with them. Obviously, make your resume relevant. Don't put a lot of stuff in there that isn't going to interest an employer in computer engineering. So don't put a lot of personal interests that are not directly applicable to our industry. Again, ranking between the 60 and 80 jobs in PAL, for every 20 to 30 rankings you put in PAL, you should net somewhere between 1 to 2 interviews. And so that's a lot of rankings that you have to do in order to kind of land 1 or 2 interviews. So try to do as many rankings as you possibly can to kind of increase your odds for interviews. Be on the lookout for new postings and continuously add 10 new rankings each week. As I said, I expect that you do 25 new rankings by each deadline, but my personal strategy has always been to do 10 new rankings a week. So that way it keeps you kind of always in PAL, and you can always be on the lookout for those new postings that come out to you through the Google Doc. Apply online to at least 5 to 10 co-op internships that are not in PAL on a regular basis, keeping an eye on Indeed and students LinkedIn.com. I would actually use the Indeed job alerts or to email you or text you as well. Those things tend to be really useful. Don't be afraid to talk to your friends and family who have connections at their place of work. There's nothing wrong with using networks that you currently have, even if it's your father, your mother, your aunt, or your uncle. If they work in an industry that you are interested in, have them pass your resume along or have them get in contact to HR for you and see if you can't get an interview. Informational interviews are a really good way to get in contact with companies directly, and you can certainly contact any company that you might want to be working for and just ask for an information interview, which is 20 to 30 minutes of you just asking questions about what it's like to work at that company or what it's like to work in that industry. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you need to create one. About 70% or so of our employers use LinkedIn, so I think that's really important. And then once you create a LinkedIn profile, connect with me, because oftentimes if you're looking on LinkedIn for jobs, you'll see that I might be connected to someone who works at that business and may be able to create a connection for you. And then lastly, if you're having trouble with your strategy to land a co-op, always, of course, meet with me and we'll discuss your personal strategy. And you can meet with me by calling 513-556-2667 and scheduling a meeting. As I mentioned, new PAL jobs come out all the time, and so where I tend to put them are on a Google Doc. That I will email you the link, or I'll leave that in the Slack site so that you can get in contact with those companies through PAL for the new jobs. New positions that are posted in PAL are the best because they're companies that are looking to hire right this moment, and it's a great way to kind of put yourself out there to as many new opportunities as possible. I also keep job boards for really top tier companies. If you wanted to ever work at Google or Intel or Microsoft or something like that, I put a lot of that information in a Google Doc as well that I'll send you the link for. That'll help you locate applications for jobs for internships in those companies. Our top 20 employers, this is the list of them. Intelligrated is the number one. They hire the most students in computer engineering right here in Cincinnati. But about 68% of all UC students in computer engineering have worked for one of these top employers at some point in their career. And so you can bet that you'll probably most likely work for one of these companies. And they're all fantastic companies. And so keep an eye on those 20 companies when you're applying for jobs in PAL. Make sure that you're ranking pretty much every job that any of these companies have. That will really increase the odds that you'll get an interview and a co-op the first time out. Obviously, it just kind of blanket ranking these jobs is, without reading them, it's not a good idea. So make sure you're still researching the companies. I'll send you this list though, so you can kind of do that research and look at that on your own as well. So what type of jobs are in PAL? I need you to know that there are a wide variety of computing industry professions. And so you might think that all computer engineering should be hardware-based or software-based or firm or controls or embedded systems or automation or something like that. And that's certainly true. But computing as an industry is vast, and we're in so many different areas of business. We're in the automotive industry. We're now moving into the housing industry. We're not just computing the box that has all the blinking lights. And so keep your mind and your options open when you're thinking about where you might want to work and do some really neat things in the industry. But also keep in mind that I try to provide a wide array of opportunities in PAL, which is why there are over 350. And so if you're interested in more IT or networking, but still want to be a computer engineer, there are some opportunities for that as well. So that's something to keep in mind. We do have some international experiences that you can certainly consider, and I would encourage you to look up our German and Japan co-op programs. They're really strong. A lot of students are interested in working in Germany, and we have a lot of companies that will not only let you work for them here in the United States, but then also send you to Germany as part of the international co-op program, and I would recommend that completely. You can on your own co-op internationally anywhere in the world. Anytime you find a co-op, if you find one in Australia, fantastic. I'd love to go with you. We have short-term study tours to Spain and Italy and Japan. We used to have one in Finland. We don't anymore, but those are some opportunities for you to kind of do a short-term opportunity, 2 weeks in a country to kind of learn more about businesses and working in those areas. And then if you wanted to do an international internship, we have solid programs in Toronto, Hong Kong, and Singapore. The Spring Career Fair is Thursday, February 11th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I mentioned that already. Make sure you go to that. It's really important that you attend the Career Fair. You really up your odds significantly of landing a co-op if you attend the Career Fair.
Once you get the job, someone offers you a gig, awesome. Don't pull the trigger too quickly. I've had students who will get an email from an employer or maybe even a phone call and says, hey, you did really well in the interview. We'd like to extend an offer to you. What do you think about that? And you're like, that's great. I'm really excited. I'm going to take that job. And they're like, great. Well, we got some other things that we'll need to fill out and some work that needs to be done, and we'll send you the official offer soon. They're like, great. And then they hang up, and you go into PAL, and you log in, and you click. Here's all the directions for that. You click the I've landed a co-op button, right? Which is, you're super excited because that button has been staring at you all semester or year, depending on how long you've been searching. And you fill everything out, and then I get an email, and I go in and I say, great, John has got a co-op. I'm very excited. And I click the approve button. That then triggers an email that goes to you. It says, hey, congratulations on your co-op. Here are the next steps. And then also an email to that person, whoever created that job in PAL. And that person gets that email and then says, wait, who's John? Because what happened was you were hired by a supervisor, like someone who works in the industry, not in HR, who makes the decisions, right? And so then that HR person calls me and says, oh, we never hired John. I'm like, oh, well, he said he did, so let me email him real quick. And then John says, oh, they called me. They said they offered me the job. I'm like, who's they? And then they say the name of the person, if they remember the name of the person. And then I say, ooh, something's going on there. And they're like, we're doing a background check. Nothing's official. And then something goes wrong, and now you don't have a job. So make sure you've confirmed everything. I like to get things in writing as much as possible before you hit I've landed a job, because you don't want something like that to happen. And guess what? It has actually happened. Once you have officially landed that co-op and you know officially that you've had it, you've got confirmation, you're going to go into PAL, you're going to click that button, and like I said, all those things happen. Now, if you land a co-op job that isn't in PAL, so you go in PAL and you can't find it, or you found it on your own so you already know it's not in PAL, the difference is all this stuff just basically says, shoot me an email and say, hey, I found a job that's not in PAL, can you help me get registered for that? And then I will either contact that company for you, or you can contact the company and create the job in PAL, and then I place you generally into that position. All right, so it's fairly straightforward. Some things to keep in mind if you are going to be looking for jobs outside of PAL, which I obviously am requiring you to do, but if you do find something that isn't a PAL company, it has to be related to your academic program. So if you land a co-op and you call me and say, hey, I landed a co-op in art history, I'm going to say no. You can't do a co-op in art history. It has to be at least 35 hours a week. So if you say, hey, I landed this great co-op, but it's only 20 hours a week, that's not a co-op, it's a part-time job. Enjoy your part-time job, but that's not a co-op, right? It has to be paid. Now here's the one difference. If they say we're going to pay you $500 for an entire 4 months of work, that's still paid. You're still getting money. So it doesn't matter how much you get paid as long as you're getting paid something. But volunteering for a company is not a co-op, but you have to be paid something, okay? And so you're working 35 hours a week, and if you're only getting paid like $1 an hour, and they can legally do that somehow, then that's your choice, okay? But as long as you're paid something. The employment period has to be that 16 weeks and within the co-op calendar. Our absolute minimum is 13. And the only way you get a shorter co-op term is if the employer says, we can only offer you this many weeks, and then that's okay. But if it's shorter than 13, you need to ask me, and we can talk about that, or shorter than 16. You have to receive appropriate supervision. I had a student who said that they landed a co-op with Google. I was very excited, and then it turned out they were just driving the Google car around and mapping out various parts of the country. And I'm like, that doesn't count, because you have to be appropriately supervised at all times, part of the program. And you have to be formally evaluated by that supervisor in PAL. Some terms and conditions, things you need to know. You have 3 reports when you're on PAL: the beginning of the semester, the middle of the semester, the end of the semester. Do not wait to the end of the semester to do all 3 reports. A, it will take you forever, and you will curse my name and your name and everybody else's name. Don't do that. Fill them out when you get them, okay? Second, an employer fills out an evaluation of you. You are not penalized if an employer doesn't do an evaluation of you, but it's really important that an employer does an evaluation of you. So make sure that they do that, okay? After the co-op, after every co-op you do, when you come back to classes, you're going to meet with me for a reflection. That happens every single time. So you have 5 co-ops, it's 5 reflections. Except if you do a back-to-back co-op where you're doing a spring and summer, say, like, and there's no split in between, then you'll do 1 reflection for the whole set. But for the most part, after every co-op, you're going to meet with me again when you get back to campus. Sometimes that's a one-on-one, me and you, and sometimes that's in a group setting, kind of like this. You must complete 2 co-ops consecutively with the same employer before you can change. Both Carlo and Alan, who are here, both had worked for their employers for 2 semesters and then swapped to a new employer. And in their case, both their second employer, there were 3 terms for them. Actually, Carlo was 2 because he's in the extended program. But you have to work 2 terms, 2 rotations with the same employer before I'll let you even consider switching. All right? Sometimes it's not always possible. That situation doesn't always happen just the way we like it. Some employers will ask you to not come back, and it's not because you did anything wrong. It's just they're not hiring for that term, and they're like, well, we're sorry, we're not hiring for the term that you're supposed to come back. And then you're going to come contact me, and we're going to figure it out, right? But for the most part, you're going to go back to the same employer twice. And that counts for your second co-op, a second employer as well. So if you do 2 at one employer, and then you get a third term at a second employer, you have to do 2 terms with that same employer before you switch again. So if you want to do a third employer for your 5th term, you have to do 2 in a row every single time. Does that make sense? Okay. And then read and understand the co-op handbook. We should have done that from intro. Last few bits of information. You cannot take classes during co-op. It's a policy that we have. You have to be working 35 to 40 hours a week, so there's really no time for you to be taking classes. However, if you want to take classes online or at night to get ahead, to catch up, to improve a grade that you might have not done as well in, if those classes are offered online or at night during a co-op term, you're certainly welcome to do that. There's a form you have to fill out, but it's generally rubber stamped and you're on your way. If it's a course that happens during the day and you absolutely need this course in order to graduate on time or to do something else, that is something you have to get approved through your department, and so we'll have a conversation about that. But generally, those are not approved. Transportation and housing while you're on co-op is your responsibility. A lot of employers will pay for both transportation and housing if it's not here in the Cincinnati region, but not all of them will. And so you're really going to have to weigh how much you're getting paid and the experience that it is, and whether or not you can afford that. Some people can afford it, and it's no problem. Some people just can't, and that's okay. And you and I can have that conversation. I would recommend going international for co-op opportunities. We have the international co-op program to Germany and Japan. Those are where you do your first few terms here in the United States, obviously, at whatever company that you choose. You get a shortened 3rd term, and then you participate in a language immersion program where they intensely teach you how to speak the language that you're going to, whether it's Germany or Japan. And then your last 2 co-ops are back-to-back in that country. It's a very, very cool program, and it's all kind of set up for you to be very successful in that. You can also co-op internationally on your own. Like Alan, he worked for Intuit for 2 terms, And then they asked him to also work in London for his third term. And that's totally acceptable. It's obviously an English-speaking country, so it worked out really well for him. We also have international co-op programs, agreements with Singapore, Hong Kong, and Toronto. Those are all English-speaking areas, and it's very easy to do programs there, and those are all set up for you as well. Highly recommend doing an international experience. And that is it. Questions?